Hello, everyone. My name is always Asmal. Welcome to another episode of Two Ways to Skin a Cat, a show where we talk career experiences, entrepreneurship, and investments. The main aim is to show that there's more than one way to be successful other than just climbing the corporate ladder. We are live on LinkedIn and YouTube, and the show will be available on podcast by tomorrow morning. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell to get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. If you're joining us live, drop a one in the comments so that we know we're not talking to ourselves. And if you're watching the recording, drop a two in the comments. My guest for this week is Jason Fairbairn, chartered accountant who is also a senior audit manager and part of the graduate recruitment team at BDO. Jason, thanks so much for joining me today.
No, it's a tremendous opportunity to be on your show, Ways, and I do appreciate for this moment, and thank you very much. Yeah.
Brilliant. Let's jump into the meat of it. Tell us your story. Where do you come from? And even outside of work, who is Jason Fairbairn? Give us that backstory.
100%. Jason Fairbairn comes from Cape Town, born and raised. And essentially, from a high school level, as most people will say in the profession, they would have done accounting at a high school level and thought that, out of all the subjects out there, this is the one I'm most inclined to. This is the one I seem to be doing the best on. I then joined varsity, and actually I didn't subscribe or enroll to the chartered accountant stream. I was never going to be a chartered accountant based on the course which I had enrolled in. And as life would have it, I had a best friend in primary school. Me and this guy were best friends for about 7 years, the primary school length. We went to separate high schools and we sort of lost contact. Yeah, I was walking around in my first year on university. This was in the first few weeks at Stellenbosch campus. And I see this guy walking with his resume. I'm like, how's it, man? How's it been going? And then we reconnected for the first time after 5 years. I asked him what he was doing. He was doing like the chartered accountant stream. And I was like, what am I doing? I'm just doing general BCom. We compared timetables. Next thing you know, I was swapping over to the chartered accountant stream without really a care in the world in terms of where it's going to take me. Fast forward 4 years, got the honors, started doing my articles, the mandatory 3-year period. I did it at the Big Four, or the now part of the Big Five. And yeah, eventually qualified in March 2020, completed my articles, spent a year at KPMG in the IT assurance department just to gain a bit of exposure to see how that side of life works and how assurance from that sort of perspective looks like. And then eventually moved over to where I am now, BDO. There was something in the water here and I wanted to taste, I wanted to sip, and I ended up now here at BDO. Outside of work, I consider myself very much a comedic, easygoing person. Love camping, love 4x4ing, love organizing events with my friends. And yeah, that's about me in a nutshell.
Okay, that's a small nutshell, but we'll unpack that a little bit as we go. Most audit managers are very focused on their career. How did you end up getting involved in recruitment? Because that seems a little bit to the side of where most managers work.
100%. And I think people have this perceived view of how auditors are. Maybe they're not necessarily as people intensive or focused. I find myself, especially in a work environment, energized by people. I enjoy interacting and engaging with someone to find out what they want out of life, where they want to go, and what are they looking for. And the best way to sort of, feed that side of me was to step into the grad recruitment space, which I did. In any sort of workspace I found myself in, at my two employers in total. I find myself in the graduate recruitment space. I enjoy it. Like I said, I have a passion for people. I enjoy engaging with future candidates, future CAs, trying to unpack what they want out of the articles, where do they see themselves, what are they looking for the immediate 3 years, after their studies. So for me, it was like, how do I balance out, because the audit profession is obviously grueling in terms of your time, you need to sort of, although I enjoy auditing, there's always ways to make it more fun and, more enjoyable for yourself. So I found myself in the grad recruitment space where I found much enjoyment, and it's no longer work, as they say, if it's fun, it doesn't become work anymore. So I spend some of my time, within the recruitment space, recruiting the future CAs and top talents for BDO.
Sounds like you enjoy it, which is good. You've worked, as you mentioned, for two very big audit firms, KPMG and BDO. For somebody maybe deciding where to do their articles, What are the similarities and maybe what are the differences between the two? If you can share that with us.
So from a similarity perspective, BDO is naturally the fifth largest or part of the big five within South African space, but they share a unique value proposition in the sense of that because they have been growing over the last 5 to 10 years, they seem to, or not seem to, rather, they do have, based on personal experience, an array of client sizes. I walked into BDO learning things that I had never learned previously, solely based on the client portfolio BDO has. It has a mixture of your big listed clients. It has a mixture of your medium-sized clients and your smaller-sized clients. Often you find that your smaller-sized clients, you are getting information where maybe you have to apply your mind a bit more, which gives you an opportunity to learn and think. At your bigger clients, in your listed space where the information you receive is maybe a bit more accurate and stuff like that, you enhance sort of your audit technical skills there for the nuances which they do. So, one of the key differences I would say is that at BDO where I am, I found my exposure to be a lot broader, given that we are a company rather that's growing and scaling, and it's about to breach the previously big four, now big five. And then specifically to BDO, I'm a huge fan of the culture. I found it's a space where I can thrive and grow. There's that recruitment, like I said. Prior to BDO, I'd actually never left Cape Town and visited any of our neighboring cities within South Africa, such as Johannesburg, Bloemfontein. I'd never left. I was completely ignorant to it. I had no sort of inclination to go there. I was happy and content in Cape Town. As part of the graduate program, which you're running, the recruitment program, it afforded me opportunities which I'd never experienced before, to be able to travel to Johannesburg, to be able to travel to Bloemfontein, and it's been absolutely amazing. So there was a space for me to be able to express myself and hone in on my skills, which I believe I have. And then obviously getting that exposure, like I said, I can find myself sitting in conversations where I can give advice. I can mentor trainees. I can guide trainees. I'm dealing with an array of clients. Like, from a growth and exposure perspective and the culture perspective is one of the reasons why I am at BDO and why I've stayed at BDO from an auditing firm perspective.
Oh, amazing. For the audience, we'll be responding to questions towards the end, so please add your questions to the comment section now so that we don't miss them. I see on your LinkedIn profile that you're also the founder of a startup. Tell us a little bit about that.
100%. So it's a bit of I was sitting with my friends one day and I was like, you know what, guys, I'm a chartered accountant, and they were also chartered accountants. I'm like, we need to do something with this. I'm going to challenge myself to do something with this chartered accountancy. I don't strive for not doing things. I've considered myself an ambitious person. I always want to challenge myself to levels and levels and levels. And then along came the brainchild, which was in my mind for quite a while, but I thought, let me challenge myself. Let me put something to it called Teta Nam, which means talk to me. It's essentially an interviewer's guide on navigating the interview process. Obviously, anyone who needs a job is going to go through an interview. The purpose in which I serve, or the service which I'm essentially offering, is to go through a mock interview process with you, but without going into the detailed sort of packages I offer, in terms of the unique value proposition I offer. I find myself, meeting up with someone one-on-one and then just running through an interview cycle, a mock cycle, and giving feedback from a body language perspective, tone, sort of answers given, so that essentially they can take that sort of feedback into the next interview and, sort of stand out or elevate themselves amongst the rest of the candidates. Then I also have a non-profit called the Youth Foundation, and that stemmed more from a need to give back to society. Obviously privileged to be where I am, obviously blessed to be where I am. I attribute it all to the man above. And I felt it within myself, and I partnered with someone else who felt the same. We want to give back to the community with intentional time. Hopefully, as we grow and scale, we can give in other forms, such as cash contributions or donations. But the Youth Foundation is essentially a non-profit organization within the Western Cape that has three fundamental pillars, which is to serve the elderly, the youth, and then abandoned animals on the streets, so like stray dogs and cats and things like that. And we're just looking to give back in our time, whether it's visiting old age homes, visiting kids' homes, spending some time with them, see how we can make their life better, volunteering at SPCAs or animal homes. Any way we can give back or try and improve their lives is what we're striving to do with the Youth Foundation.
How do you, you mentioned it now, how do you manage a startup the foundation, a full-time job? Did you have to speak to your bosses about it? How does that work?
Yeah, it's a very interesting one, and I didn't really speak to the bosses about it. It's more a case of being more effective with my time. So generally, I'm the type of person who wakes up at 5 in the morning. I do my prayers, I do my spiritual aspect of my life. If I can squeeze in a bit of a gym session, I try to do that as well. Then I'm at office by 6 o'clock, and I'm trying to get as much done as possible by like 4 or 5 o'clock. So traditionally, I'm working 9 to 11 hours willingly. To be able to free up time. So, I mean, if I have a gap, let's say close to 3 o'clock at the end of the day, I'll delve into things that I only plan to do tomorrow or the day thereafter to try and give myself as much of a gap and free time as possible. Because my ultimate goal is by the weekend, I'm not doing any sort of work. I'm focusing on my external endeavors, and often the intentional time which I give for the nonprofit, as an example, will be on a weekend. If it's meeting with potential customers on the interview skills and interview tips, will also be on the weekend. So I generally work during the week, how many hours I need to ensure that my weekends and most of Fridays is free and available to be able to do those other endeavors.
Okay. I see you've been in audit for 7 years, so 4 years as a manager. So you passed that. A lot of people after articles, they say, I'll stick around for 2 years and then I'll move on. But you well past that. Are you audit for life, or what's your plan after this?
Well, naturally, hopefully, by the time I'm doing this interview next time with you, I'm hopefully an audit partner, at BDO. I mean, I have to be ambitious and I have to strive towards that. If I find myself as a senior audit manager now, I've got to be chasing or striving to be an audit partner, which I am. But just on that, I see we did articles at the same, sort of firm, and maybe it's an opportunity for me to ask you, what is your sort of rationale or reasoning for, moving out of the audit space and, to where you find yourself now?
Audit is not for me.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Like I can do it, but like whenever you go to clients, you always get especially the people who don't understand what an audit is, you can feel that they don't want you there. And I don't like working in that sort of environment, number one. And number two, also, like, I wanted to be, so, I mean, audits, it's a lot about making sure things are in place and checks are in place and things like, which I can do, but it took a lot of energy for me. I wanted to be where the action was. So, I mean, if you come into audit, you're auditing results that happened 6 months ago, 3 months ago, or even a year ago. Whereas now when I'm doing forecasts, like, you're part of the action now. It's like, what are the decision making we're doing now? And that just suits my personality. So my personality didn't really suit audit. That's probably why.
Okay, interesting. Okay, fair enough. From my perspective, I enjoy, although contrary to popular belief, I enjoy the flexibility of audit. My day is generally my own. I always always ensure I'm readily available for any partner or director or team member that needs me. In the sense that I'm output driven. So as long as my outputs and deliverables are met, I find myself having a greater sense of flexibility. If I need to, if there's an emergency, or if I communicate with the partners a bit that, hey, here's all my deliverables, all my outputs, all my tasks are done, taking a bit of a day off here just to recuperate. They're very much understanding, and that's another massive pro that I find myself in, the space I find myself in. The partners here are very understanding and flexible in that regard as well. So for me, the biggest thing is flexibility and being challenged on a day-to-day basis. I mean, I can have a diary, I can have an intended plan. I can tell you 11 times out of 10, that is not going to come to fruition. Every day brings about chaos and anarchy, which I enjoy in the best possible senses, because it keeps me on my toes, keeps me mentally sound, keeps me mentally fit, and I'm constantly learning. You've got 5 clients emailing you about different technical issues. It allows me to apply my mind and think about these sort of technical matters. And then obviously in the people side of life, I enjoy audit lunches, I enjoy team building, I enjoy conversations with trainees, every day, who knows is going to walk up to your desk and seek guidance or seek advice or seek mentoring. And who knows which client's going to call you just to catch up in general, that sort of energy that I get from them, I feed off,
And am I right that your day is your own because you're a manager? I'm assuming for those who are thinking about becoming trainees, your day is not your own until you get through article.
100%. I mean, I'd say to trainees, your 3 years is for you to work towards your CA. So, don't really focus on the money. Don't really focus on the sacrifices which you will make regardless of which audit firm you find yourself at. I would say your main mission is just to complete the 3 years and hopefully qualify as a chartered accountant, passing your board exams along the way. Because once you do, and I mean, always you can testify, your time, wherever space you find is you have that ability to sort of negotiate your time because you are a chartered accountant, and not necessarily just with an audit. Imagine in any sort of space you find yourself in, because you carry that reputable designation behind your name, it does add a bit of value,
Let's, shall we move over? We're getting some questions from the audience, so let's move over to that. We've got a question here from Brian who says, what are some of the challenges that graduate trainees face and why? If you can answer.
100%. So, I mean, I think we are out of a COVID era where I think the graduates were predominantly in a remote or distant learning space. And I think the audit perspective, if you are auditing within the Cape Town realms, very much client-facing and need to be on site. And I think graduates find it challenging to shift from that remote working or remote studying space to now having to come into work on a daily basis and interact with other people. So I think that's certainly a challenge. Whilst you're on university, you obviously, your study timetable is very much your own. So you sort of deciding your time and how you go about things to achieve your study results. Whereas at work, it becomes more of an 8 to 5 thing. So the extent to which you have flexibility in those times is very much in terms of what clients you're going to be working on, So I think those are the two major challenges graduates, trainees, graduates who are stepping into the audit profession face.
And then we've got a question from Miklali who says, as a recruiter at BDO, what qualities do you look out for when recruiting? Or what advice would you give someone who would like to join BDO, maybe not as a CA trainee, but as an internal auditor?
Michelle, can I ask you to connect with me via LinkedIn, and we can maybe have a personal conversation about this? I'll be happy to give you then the insight on it.
But high level, if other people have the same question, is there anything any tips you can give us there?
100%. So, I mean, if I had to give at a glance, we have a series of questions that we ask, and we just ultimately want to get to know who you are and whether you are a culture fit. I think your academics results get you into the interview, which someone would say your qualification academics get you into the interview. And what separates one person from another is who they are and their personality, which we try and gauge in this. I mean, try and be as sincere as possible. Try and be who you are, because you'd hate to be put on a bit of a front and then you end up in a culture that doesn't suit you. We're obviously looking for the best culture fits for us, and for that, in that regard, just be yourself, essentially.
I think that's all in terms of questions from the audience. This is one question I like to ask all my guests. What is one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
That's interesting. What advice would I give my younger self? I suppose it depends in what context. I think from a work perspective, it's all worth it. I mean, I remember studying long hours. Everyone has their trials and tribulations when it comes to studies. It's not necessarily the easiest thing to do from a chartered accountant perspective, but it's just to remind myself that it is all worth it, because in hindsight, it was all worth it. All the hours you put in, all the graft, if you're unsuccessful in the test and have to do a supplementary, it is all worth it. If you're on the CA route, I promise you, it is worth it in the end. So to remind myself on that. Personally, what advice would I give myself? Is a sort of linked, just have that never give up sort of attitude and always persevere. You never what life will throw you in any sort of stage, whether it's within your studies or when you're in work. Just always have that attitude of you will get through it, you will navigate it, and it will be okay, irrespective. Can I ask you something just on that?
Go for it.
How do you, or what's sort of the motivation behind you running these sort of interviews? I mean, you're a CFO now. I can imagine your time is heavily constrained and things like that. How do you manage all of this, and what's your sort of motivation behind running this series?
Simple, really. We've got, and a lot of you, especially graduates and people of color, when I was studying, I had no mentors, no one that I could relate to, that I could ask questions about the profession or about the experience. And I wanted to change that. So that was the main intention behind the interviews, interviewing different CAs, even non-CAs, people, investment professionals and other professionals, learning more about. A lot of people come from places, or some people who are wealthy come from, I can ask this uncle or my dad's friend, so-and-so. But most of us don't have that opportunity. So for me, this was the gap to fill, to allow other people to ask those questions and even just to listen. Sometimes it's the one question that I happen to ask that might have been a throwaway question that can help change it for somebody. And that was powerful.
Okay, interesting. Okay. And if I had to ask, sorry, last question from my side to you is, if I had to ask a pro tip for LinkedIn branding and for anyone who wants to get into the LinkedIn space and building their brand, what would you say?
It takes time. You're not going to do something for a month and blow up. People that I've been doing it since 2019. Some people only noticed me last year, and some people only noticed me in 2021 or 2020. So, yeah, it's like anything else. It's those 10,000 hours. It's just about keep going. You'll be surprised. You don't have to be perfect at something. You just have to be consistent, and that applies not just to LinkedIn or not just to social media or not just to work or not just to do anything you want to achieve. Is just keep going. While people, it's almost like a survivorship bias. People everybody else gives up, and who's left is you.
100%. Okay, cool. Thanks for that. Always.
Any last few words from you, or anything we didn't discuss that you'd like the audience to know?
Yeah, if anyone's keen to learn more about BDO and articles in general, any sort of like questions about the audit profession, feel free to DM me on LinkedIn. I'm there to assist. I enjoy having a conversation, not necessarily even to recruit you, just to discuss where you want to see your future and what you're looking for. I have a unique perspective where I did my articles as part of another big 5 entity, and now I find myself at BDO. So I do have that sort of dual perspective, and I have done vacation work at a smaller firm. So I've got a broad perspective of the lay of the land in the audit profession. So if you do want to have a conversation with me with no strings attached in terms of signing for any particular firm, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to have a chat and give you any sort of guidance or advice that I can.
That's a great way to end. The show has been live on YouTube and should be available on podcast by tomorrow. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell to get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. Jason, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Tooways. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us for another episode of Tooways to Skin a Cat. Goodbye.